Okay, for people joining this live stream, we are doing something supposedly simple right now, which is we are filling in a guide page for documentation about computer security features. And what we want to do here is just list off some of the things that we have in the language that relate in some way or another to computer security. So I figure the first step is encryption. And maybe people could respond to this a bit. So I think we also have a file hash function, do we not?
Yes, we do.
Does that seem more relevant than just hash? Maybe it is. It's what do you think? I mean, think about how we would actually be using this.
I mean, I would think that in a topic, if you say computer security, file hash for practice is more usable, but then just if you are listing file hash, you might list hash as well because they're like browsers.
Yeah, no, I understand. But the question is, should I list? Okay, maybe what I'll do here is on this line, I will list file hash. Okay. Okay, is there anything else in this collection that is, okay, so first of all, with encryption, I think we've got, that is the basic stuff we need there, yes? Is that right? I mean,
I'm looking at the cryptography guide page to see if there's other ones. We have, encrypt file you have.
Oh, and actually, by the way, I need to refer to the encryption guide page there. I mean, I need to link there to the encryption page. What is it called? What's the encryption page?
The guide called? Cryptography is, I think, the main one.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the Zoom chat.
No, that won't help me because the way the linking works here, that won't help me.
That one.
Okay.
At least that's what I'm looking at right now.
Right. Okay. So what page is relevant for verification and signatures? Is that same page or is it a different page?
Not sure if we have one. Daria, do you mean for digital signatures? I mean, digital signatures is a section
on cryptography. They are listed in cryptography page.
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe you want to put it the other way around, signatures and verification.
Okay. I mean, I wrote what's here extremely quickly as kind of a skeleton, but okay, let's take a look at what's on this page. Okay. Now, things like password cracking. Go ahead.
Hash. Is hash on this page? Should it be? Don't see it.
It is. It's right there. It's right there.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay. So let's point this. I'm afraid this probably is still, it's all going to have to point at the same page. It's all going to point at that encryption page, right? All those links are going to point at the encryption page. Makes sense?
I think the cryptography page will grow over time, and then we may want to split it up. But right now, it's in a consumable length, I think.
Okay. And then we want to link back from the cryptography page to this computer security page. I wonder whether we want to call it computer security or whether we want to call it something like, what did I just do there? Did I do the wrong thing there? Browse. Or do we want to call it something like functions, computer security functionality or something? Okay, key management is going to point to that same page again, right?
I think so, yeah.
On the live stream, Feistel is asking, got NAAEAD. What is that?
Sure.
The fact that we don't know what it is not a good sign, but
Daria, do you know? I don't know. I don't
authenticated encryption. What is that? I don't know what that is. Let's take a look. Let's see. Oops.
Is that just a term of a number of functionalities? That's
this business.
Maybe a reference to like the new cipher suites in like TLS 1.2, like polychacha and the elliptical curve stuff.
Well, but one of the questions here. So I don't know what this is. This is a Daria question. Daria, can you comment on this?
This seems like it'd be a very general thing, which is like it's an instance-dedicated encryption. You provide a password and encrypt, and that's the thing we have. This, I might have to look to more details of this, but it seems general enough. Like we have generate symmetric key bait on a password. We have generate derived key bait on your password, and those you use for encrypting.
Right. So one point here is that the keywords on these pages need to include things that allow people to find. I mean, if we do have this in some way, then they need to be able to find it by with keywords.
Yeah, so, I mean, if anything, the encrypt file function would be the place where you should be able to specify what kind of cipher suite and integrity you want. I mean, all the protocols that are in use on the web or for SSH and so on, that's a big deal. You specify the cipher and you specify the kind of MAC you want. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know whether we have that in the encrypt file or not.
I don't think we do. I mean, the other thing we don't have in encrypt, which I thought Daria was working on, is priming it with public key and then going to something else for large files. Right, Daria?
Yes, but that is like I have not started working on that yet. But for the thing that was mentioned just before about selecting the cipher encrypt, you select the cipher when you generate a symmetric key. So you generate the key for a specific cipher, and then you put it to encrypt. And so this way you select the thing you want to encrypt and the block mode and other things, the size.
I understand, but this authentication thing, we need to understand. I don't understand this. I mean, when we say generate, if we say generate symmetric key, open, close, then that will be by default a key for this cipher, right? So, and the problem is when we generate asymmetric key pair, we may have to specify both what am I saying? We may have to specify both the sort of public key part and the private key part that runs for large files, if I'm making sense. All right. Anyway, but who's going to take on making sure that we actually go through these pages and make sure that we understand what keywords we should be adding if indeed we're already doing this stuff?
It'll be me and Daria and Carla and Constantine.
Okay, fine. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. Okay. So here, what other stuff for key management do we have to mention? This stuff that we will be mentioning for the system keychain is going to be part of that key management section. Is that correct?
Well, the keychain doesn't itself have any cryptography, right? I mean, it stores.
No, I know, but this is about key management. I mean,
yes,
where do we have?
Management is so we should have an entry about the authentication dialog and system credential as soon as that is ready.
Okay, but so this would be down in authentication or what? Where should we be putting the section on system?
Key management.
Okay, so but authentication we've listed here as a separate thing. I may have got it wrong, but you get what I'm saying?
Yes, I mean that's the.
You think we should move authentication up to a section up here?
Not necessarily. No, what I mean is we will have functions to securely store credentials. So whatever you need for the authentication here is something you can then store in a keyring.
I understand.
So,
I'm asking in terms of the page. Should the keyring functionality be up here with key management or down here with authentication?
Well, it's not that kind of key management we have that generates keys, but it's certainly relevant to bookkeeping and care and feeding of keys. I don't know whether but you could put it up there. Yes, just put a futurized or a blue entry for just write system credential. Then we know what to do eventually.
Okay, but I mean, so what will we? Let's just understand the description. System credential, store keys in. What are the functions that go around these?
Yes, securely store authentication data or something like that.
But aren't there functions that go around this? There's not just system credential. There's other things, aren't there? Or do you?
No, system credential. You say system credential of foo equals secret.
Okay. So I think this should be a separate. I think this should be a separate section about system. I think this is a different thing. I think this is a section about system key management or something. System key ring. I don't know whether key ring is the right term. What's the right term here?
I mean, there's key ring is used frequently. Then there's key chain that is used.
Okay, use your computer systems. Use securely store credentials within your operating system.
Yes, that's a good description.
Using operating system services. Key services, or is that a bad term? I mean, some are calling key rings, some are calling key chains. So,
yeah, I mean, it depends on whether you're Mac and Windows, and
I understand.
And
this is the keychain link project from Constantine.
Yes.
Okay, so we're talking about different backends as well that we're going to support. So
yes, but I mean that doesn't belong here. But the documentation for system credential will.
Oh yeah, well, I thought Stephen was asking like what else.
Yeah, well, using operating system services, is that right? I mean, is that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this page needs any more.
Okay, but should this be under system? What else goes with that? With operating system? I think this is computer system. See, there are things that are about your computer system. There are other things about your computer system.
I mean, something which is fairly specific, but is of the same kind, is the kind of SSH agent, which would allow you to maintain SSH passwords for logging into.
Okay, well, so I think that should be.
But that's not hooked to Wolfram Language, so that's kind of external.
Right, but we also need to talk about the SSH mechanism.
Yes.
And so I think that becomes a section that really is. What is this? This is. Well, I'm not sure.
I mean, we have copy file, which can securely copy files to remote systems. I don't know whether you want to put them under external operations. I mean, you have $SSH authentication, but that's not the right entry point. The entry point
so tell me,
copy file is the.
Okay.
My copy file can be used to securely access remote files using SSH and other protocols.
Okay, copy file. So, securely
access remote resources or remote files, perhaps.
Copy remote files using SSH, etc.
Yes. Yeah, and we have a remote file function, right, Roman?
Yeah, but that's a lower level one. That's usually not visible. Or do we have remote files?
No, it's in 12, right? If you go to ref remote file.
Oh yeah, it's a wrapper. It's a wrapper.
So that's a copy file of something, and I think is that a secure copy? Yeah, that's a secure copy, right?
Remote file is a wrapper that allows you to embed credentials you need to access the file, and it's used.
That seems highly relevant to this. File. Okay.
Yes. So yes, remote file is yes.
Right. Remote file. So
here remote file is. How do you call it? It's the same kind of thing like file. It's a wrapper.
Right. Symbolic representation of a remote file, including credentials.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. And then there's also remote connect.
Hold on. A remote file, including credentials. Okay, then we don't really have to say. Okay, then I guess we probably should put that first here. But maybe this should be really called external files.
I mean, the question is, you see, I mean, just what Danu said, I mean, we have remote run and so on. So question is, do you want separate sections, or could you put both under external operations?
I didn't say remote run, I said remote connect, but yeah, remote run and a remote run process are also in the same.
Remote connect and remote.
What is remote connect?
That gives you a remote connection object. That is a representation of a remote host, including.
It's SSH. Yeah, it's SSH in Wolfram language.
It lets you run remote processes.
I see.
Over,
okay. Well, so
SSH. Yeah. So it lets you.
Why don't we call this secure file operations and then have a separate thing saying remote process?
Yeah. So over SSH or over secure connections. That's
file operations.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know whether there are any other secure file operations, and then we have a separate section here, which is
secure remote processes or secure remote process access. Communication.
What's that?
Secure remote.
What was Roman just suggesting?
Secure remote access.
Okay.
Well, okay.
And you can delete the $SSH authentication. That's really just the default for an authentication option. I don't think that's very.
I think
that's linked from remote file and copy file.
Why isn't that relevant here? It gives people a sense of what's going on. Well,
okay. Yeah, that's okay. It's better down there. Yes.
Okay, fine. Secure file. Okay, so secure remote access. Removing copy file from here. So this is the first thing here is remote connect. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, what's the description of that?
Just sets up a connection to a remote machine that you can then use for.
Set up an SSH connection. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Is it always SSH?
Currently, yes. I mean.
Okay, set up a secure connection. Let's just say a secure connection to a remote host.
Yeah. And then once you do that, you can do, for example, remote run process.
Okay. So do I need to list those separately, or can I just list those? It's pretty obvious what's going to go on there.
You can with the dots, remote run process. Those are the two you want.
Are there any others for remote run process? Is there any other process control that comes with remote run process?
Well, you can do write line and read string. You can do write line to your remote connection object, and then just the string of a command. It's the second example. There's an example down there. Go down. You see where it says. Oh, sorry. Sorry. I thought go to the remote connect page, and then look at the example. There's a write line and read string. You can just write, and that should be secured before it goes over the internet.
That seems useful. Okay.
The point is that the PWD, the string PWD there will be encrypted, and the stuff that comes back.
Right.
Right. Like if you're in a coffee shop, nobody can, nobody can listen in on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just SSH, right?
Okay.
I'm just trying to.
Okay. I understand the point. Yeah. Is there any other file operation here that we need for? Are there any other?
Well, I mean, there are further down this URL read, and URL download is probably relevant because URL download supports all the same secure protocols, but only on the source side for reading from remote files.
Okay. All right. So what next we have Are we dealing with web operations next? And then we should have a section for, I think we should do this.
There's a typo for a remote file from the streams. It should be symbolic representation of a remote file.
Oh, thank you.
And there's one more typo. Of a remove, including, where was that? Maybe you already fixed that, but you probably already fixed that.
Okay, all right. So now, let's see. Do we want to now talk about, I mean, at some point we want to talk about web security, but we want to talk about that in several different ways. I mean, do we want, I'm a little confused. Maybe we should have the authentication stuff up above after encryption, then we go to authentication, then we go to what you can actually do, like these file operations. Get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I mean, these, I will say, okay, no, sorry, yeah, you are right. I mean, because the top authentication is not relevant, but $SSH authentication is.
Yeah.
So
I mean, authentication comes before doing anything, just conceptually. So.
Okay, so various comments on the live stream about multi-factor authentication. Let me just read some of these. Sander comments that he submitted Vignere cipher and CZD. Oh, great. I mean, I do think at some point that we should add, to generate symmetric key, we should add the things, maybe using function repository code for things like Caesar ciphers, just for fun, just because people can use them for cryptography classes and so on. Better not be the case that anybody uses that for a real application. Otherwise, okay, Ethan is saying it's need to connect to remote machines via a jump host in AWS via multi-factor, since this currently isn't possible in V12. Integrating more advanced SSH support with remote kernels is very, very important. Anybody who wants to use remote GPUs, okay, we'd like to know what the top priority issues are there. Ethan is asking what happened to kernel launcher and friends. Roman, that's the kernel configuration.
Yes, I mean the current remote kernels for paracomputing use very old style SSH operations, and a new version of that is suitable for all of these modern things like cloud compute services, supercomputers, is in the works and should be, will be in one of the next versions.
Okay, multi-factor
allow all the SSH stuff like port forwarding, which is required for these setups.
By the way, is that in Sushma's roadmap documents? Do we consider that that's a big enough project that it should be in there? This project, I mean, the kernel configuration manager. Is that what this is about? The kernel configuration manager?
Yeah, it's part of it.
Yeah,
so this is in ECE, right?
It is an ongoing. It's an underway project.
Okay, great. Okay, and multi-factor authentication, is that something for us to deal with, or is that something that gets dealt with at a different place?
I'm not sure how that works.
Well, I mean, there's several. I mean, one is OAuth. I mean, there we probably just support whatever it supports. But
no, but I mean the multi-factor stuff where it's texting your phone and junk like that.
Yes, I mean I'm aware there are situations where SSH will require a second factor, and at the moment this is not possible because we do not allow any interaction during the actual communication setup.
But so you're saying that there are systems which, in order to SSH into them, require two-factor authentication.
Yes.
But the question is whether we have the plumbing to expose that second factor during the SSH process. Is that right?
No, we do not have a mechanism for intercepting prompts during the thing. But of course, what you can do in such a case is you first manually establish a connection from your terminal and use connection sharing, and then
how do you use connection sharing? What does that mean?
It's just an SSH option, and then the SSH that you have will act as a server, and whenever you make a second connection to the same host, it will piggyback on the existing connection and not require any new credentials. Okay,
do we have a workflow that tells people how to do that?
Not yet, but that's a very good idea.
Let's have one on two-factor authentication.
Okay, Carla, please make a note for me.
Sure.
I wonder, for folks, for Ethan on the live stream, I wonder whether what Roman just described, whether that would actually solve your problem. Okay, let's keep going here. So we're now doing, okay. How should we, what are the things that we need to describe here in this authentication section? Or is it the wrong section? I mean, I'm not guaranteeing this is the right section. Let's see. Specify authentication. Well, let's see. Authentication option. Authentication option for cloud, web, and SSH operations. Is that reasonable? Anybody? Comments, please?
Yeah, I'm more sorry. I was looking at other functions. Like, do you want to mention Cloud Connect in this context, or do you want to do that somewhere else? Or
I will want to mention Cloud Connect down here, presumably.
okay, sorry, I didn't mean to get you off track there. But
And now that you have authentication listed there, the $SSH authentication, I'm not sure it still belongs. I mean, $SSH authentication.
Okay. Hold on.
Okay.
Let's just understand what we're putting in this section. This is about this is that option. Okay. Now we have to say how to get the password. The password dialog. What is that called? That is authentication dialog, right?
Yes.
And that is bring up a variety of authentication dialogues. Right? Is that correct?
yes, well, yeah, not sure how to best describe it. I mean, it's an interface for configuring any sort of authentication dialogue, right? I mean, it's a
okay.
So
So
to actively request credentials.
yeah. Okay.
Oh.
Authentication credentials. That seems about right. Okay. Okay, now what's next here? So now we've got the various forms of things like permissions key, but permissions key is a creature only of our cloud permissions, correct?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
Secured authentication key is the OAuth. Symbolic representation of OAuth and other.
Yeah.
Okay, now what else should be here?
Generate secured authentication key. Do we have that?
No, we don't. That's important. Okay, so here. Okay, and then there's also secured authentication keys, which that's for managing. Oh boy, I mean, that's really a thing for cloud, right? That's for managing authentication keys. Is that correct? That's only for our own authentication keys. Is that right?
Yeah, it's just a list of keys that you have.
But is that outgoing keys that you have to use on other systems, or is that did you get what I'm asking?
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Okay, so isn't generate secured authentication? That's something to generate keys to access our system, right?
No, like look at the example, right? This is like to access the Flickr service. So
no, this is generate secured authentication key. No, that's for generating ones for our for accessing us. That's for accessing us.
Yeah, sorry. Is there anybody else who can help me out? I'm getting confused here. Sorry. It's
I'm pretty sure that's for
secured authentication key is
generate key for OAuth access. And then this is this permissions key is symbolic representation of an app ID style key. Now, I think, I don't know whether they have the right people here. I mean, we're also supporting basic auth and things like this. But I really want to get onto these other more general, okay, so SSH authentication, you tell me, is irrelevant.
Yeah, that's subsumed by authentication. It's just a default value of the option for SSH functions.
I still want to put it in because it's, what is it for I mean, it's useful to people to know.
Yeah, if you say, let's see, what is it? I have to try it out first, but oh yes, look at the options of remote file, then you see how it works.
Okay.
Familiar paradigm of delayed default value.
Okay. So where should we put this? We should say
right below authentication.
Okay. Defaults for SSH authentication.
Yes, that's good.
Should we call this security-related functionality?
Yeah, computer security usually is about hardening your machine against attacks or so.
Well, I know, but this is also going to contain things about packet analysis and so on down here.
Yeah, and does it contain discussion of our sandbox?
No, but I don't know how. What are the functions around the sandbox?
I don't know. Is it exposed or not, or is it just?
It's being exposed. I don't think it's fully exposed yet. Does anybody know? I think we have the wrong people here.
I don't think it's documented very well at all.
You mean
that's part of the
mode stuff?
The sandbox mode? No, it's not documented.
No.
Okay. All right.
I mean, it's all in developer context.
Yeah.
That's the other problem.
Okay. All right. So system keychains. So now, isn't there also stuff where you're storing things in? Okay. So wait a minute. This is.
Okay. The way it works is that if you have a operating system keyring, and 99% of Windows and Mac users will have one, then it's a zero configuration. It will just use that if you click that box to remember your credentials. And if there isn't one, then we now have this encrypted file backend, but that's just a hack for those cases where there is no system keyring. So I don't think we need to.
Okay. Now, do we want to talk about anything about your persistent storage stuff here? Is that relevant?
I mean, system credential is a way of is a kind of persistent storage for sensitive information, but persistent storage itself has no security.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we don't want to. Okay. Let's futurize that then. Okay. Let's go on to the cloud here. Cloud permissions. So this is detailed permissions options for cloud objects. But Cloud Connect is something yet different, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's kind of, yeah, I mean, it locks you into the cloud, right? So, and then I don't know. So it's just like remote run processor. So it establishes a state.
I mean, maybe
Right.
this section shouldn't be called cloud permissions, but something more general. You know, everything to do with the Wolfram cloud, like connecting securely or interacting with the Wolfram cloud, you know, in a secure fashion. It's not just about permissions, that section. It's about, we have Wolfram cloud, right? Who can do what, right? That's all security related, right? Who has access to cloud objects, you know?
Okay.
Yes.
How do you set up a connection to the cloud securely? I mean, that's all related to.
Okay. Authentication control or something here. Is that right? The right term?
Authentication alone is good enough.
Okay. Okay. Here. Okay. Log into the Wolfram.
Authenticate to the Wolfram cloud.
To a Wolfram cloud.
Yeah. You know, with your user ID and your password.
To a Wolfram cloud. Okay, now maybe underneath here we want to list.
You want to list cloud disconnect to disconnect, $cloud connected probably, $Wolfram ID.
Yeah, we might want to list some of those things. No, it isn't. It's cloud user ID, $cloud user ID. Okay.
Cloud base.
Yeah, I think cloud base is relevant. Yes.
Did that change or? Okay.
Okay. Now, permissions, detailed permissions for cloud objects. Okay, set permissions. And we've also got permissions groups and all those kinds of things.
Yeah. And there's a cloud permissions control guide page. I'll put it on the Rocket chat for you.
Permissions. Okay, that's fine. Okay, here we want to have. You know what? I think we shouldn't bother to list this in detail here. We should point people to other places for this. So we want set permissions group, just to tell people that we have those.
Mm-hmm. There's create permissions group. There's
well, we don't need that.
Add users, remove users, set users.
Okay, well, so that's all for permissions groups, right?
Yeah, and then there's permissions groups with it ending in the letter S. Like
no, I understand. So let's say permissions group. Add user. What's it called? Add user.
Add users, remove users, and set users. That's all related to groups, permission groups.
Right. Okay. Do you think we should list? Is there a clear permissions as well as a set permissions?
No.
Okay.
I mean, what do you mean clear permissions?
No, I mean set permissions is a function for setting permissions of a cloud object, right?
There is.
Oh yeah. Sorry, yeah, there is a clear. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong. Yeah, there is a clear permissions. Sorry.
What's $permissions? Oh, that's the
default.
That's the mask. What's it called? UMask.
Yeah. It's the default permissions for a new cloud object.
Right. Okay, then we've got these things here, permissions key, which I think we have to list separately because I think it's relevant to understanding. Okay, I think that's it for this.
Yeah, well, there's permission keys and delete permission key. Probably don't want to repeat everything, but
Well, wait a minute. Permissions, keys.
like under permissions key, right? You can do a dotted line where you have permission keys and delete permissions key.
Yeah, we could just. I think it's incomprehensible what these things are unless. I'll tell you what. Let's do this.
I mean, you want to point to the guide page if possible. There's a guide page called Cloud Permissions Control.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then maybe we should say.
So maybe split off the stuff at the top there. See on the cloud.
Okay, Wolfram Cloud. Okay, maybe we say Wolfram Cloud Authentication. That's not really right. Cloud Authentication, and then we say Wolfram Cloud Permissions. Ben is asking on the live stream, is there a way to set it so things like cloud put default to public instead of private? Yeah, you set $permissions, I think.
I think so too. So that can be a link to the Cloud Permissions Control guide page.
Okay. Oh.
And
Okay.
that guide page does mention Cloud Connect, but at the very bottom. So oddly enough.
Okay. Okay. All right. I don't know whether this is this relevant to have the permissions key and all this stuff so emphasized here, or should we not bother? I think it's relevant because it's relevant to knowing how you deal with all these weird tokens and so on. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it's fine. It's,
Okay. All right. So now we're down to web operations, right? Here. Got secure file operations. Now we're down to web operations. And then we're going to be talking about the other things that I can think of here. Oh, you know what else we need? Oh yeah, we have that. What other kinds of things? Okay, let's go through like cookies and so on. We need to talk about that, and host lookups and web execute and so on. Okay, let's talk about web security first. What do we want to see there?
well, HTTPS is the one that's secure, not, I mean.
I understand, but what
I mean,
sorry. But we want to talk about URL, being able to use URL read and so on securely, right?
Yeah.
So what do we want to say there? URL read, which one do we want to, which one is the main one? URL read, probably.
Okay.
As opposed to URL execute.
Sure.
Okay. And here, read from a URL with authentication, because it's going to be the authentication option that lets you do that, right?
I'm not sure. I think I would emphasize HTTPS. I mean, you can read from. I mean, you can read securely from URLs. I think that's the point. And the authentication is a little bit.
Okay, but that's a separate thing. It means that you can read securely from a URL. Now, does the URL wrapper include authentication? Can you put an authentication option in the URL wrapper?
Not yet, but that's under consideration in analogy to remote file.
Okay, read securely, allowing authentication.
Sure.
Okay, now, when you do that URL read, I mean, there's also URL execute, which we probably want to mention, but we also, HTTP request and response, those things can be set up. I think we should just list here URL execute and then HTTP request, HTTP response, because you can pack authentication into those, right?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I mean, for example, if you want to put headers in there, security headers into there.
Sorry, I'm just hung up on the HTTPS because that like everything is either HTTP or HTTPS, and like both are supported. But on a page where you talk about security, right, you want to emphasize HTTPS.
Okay, but so I understand.
Okay, that's.
So what do you want to say? Do you want to change this?
No. It's fine. I just want to. Yeah.
Okay. So what else do we need to say here? So what's all this stuff about verify security certificates and so on? What do we want to say?
So that's how the web server identifies itself, right? So I think by default we don't verify them. Actually, I'm not sure if we do or not, but you can verify them.
Option to verify web server certificates.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what other security related options are there for, and then we're going to get into cookies in a minute. See, because this allows username and password, doesn't it? This allows that to be specified, if I remember correctly. Follow redirects. Isn't that a security related thing?
I assume that's just following the
302s, right?
302s or 301s.
Okay.
I mean, that's standard. I mean, that's
okay, fine.
Rarely
okay,
that
no problem. Okay, so here, I thought there was a way of giving. Yes, there is a way of giving. Okay, fine. All right. Okay, Service Connect. So this is really a yet separate thing, accessing external services.
As far as I know, are always over HTTPS.
Well, but that's not the point here. I mean, access external services with allowing with authentication. That's. I mean, that.
And the authentication can be through a, like this OAuth authentication, right?
Yeah, like three-legged OAuth and things.
Yeah, there's this, if you do like Service Connect of Twitter, new, right? It opens a web browser and it,
Yeah, right.
You give permission in the web browser and then it automatically.
Right, that's three-legged OAuth.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we call this secure web operations? Seems more consistent.
Yeah, if you want to start the word.
Well, I don't know. Web security. What do you want to say here? I think we want to say secure web operations. Yeah. Okay, we need a link for both this and the external services. So the external services, I just don't remember where it is. This is so stupid. This always does that.
There's accessing external services and APIs.
I got it. Okay. And we'll need links for those other ones as well.
Do you want to know right now?
Would be nice, but well, I'm going to run out of time here, and I really want to go through what other types of things we have here. Okay, so this is now, we've now got encryption, authentication, secure files. Now, these things like security options. We also want blockchain. Okay, maybe we put blockchain at the bottom. What do you think? After all these security, and then we want the security analysis stuff, right? Which to me is yet a separate issue. Am I making sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so where do we put? I think we'll put blockchain. Where should we put blockchain?
I mean, it
Blockchain is
makes
kind of like
sense.
an application area, right? Like an external
Blockchain.
service. Is that a reasonable?
Yeah, Dario was saying something.
No, I was saying that I think it makes sense for blockchain to go in the bottom because really, like security related things in blockchain are blockchain key code and transaction sign. And
No. But the whole idea of blockchain is it's all about.
You may want to put then accessing external services also lower, as you know, because of the application area. You know, like the application areas come last.
Yeah, but web operations it's so similar to web operations.
Okay, that's just a suggestion.
Okay, so in blockchain, what do we have that is directly relevant to this? We have the whole blockchain transaction sign, all that kind of stuff, right?
yes,
First,
and blockchain key code.
okay. So I think we say blockchain transaction sign. But I mean, the whole idea of, blockchain put, blockchain get should be on here. Because this is relevant to, how you do security. Am I making sense? I would have thought. What other operations, blockchain block data, ...
Well, might as well be blockchain address data because an address is either your or somebody else's public key.
Well, but this is something different. This is just using a blockchain put to do security, as opposed to, okay, so you're saying blockchain address data should go here. Shouldn't we also have blockchain token data? Because that seems relevant to security.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You tell me. I mean,
as a whole list. I mean, every single blockchain function can be listed here in principle.
I know that, but I'm trying to get an idea of what. Okay, I think that's okay. If people think that's okay.
Yeah.
And then we'll link to the blockchain page.
I just had a thought about the encode function. Do we list it anywhere? Like to encode your...
No, we do not. That's a good idea.
Not sure where that would fit. Maybe with files. You know, if you want to encode your code to...
Yeah, I understand.
Go near where we have encrypt file.
I don't want to put it near there because it really isn't as close to that as
and of course the language
actually
itself.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, what we could do here is have something called
language level functions or code, code security, securing your code. I mean, we have like read, protected, locked, like attributes to protect your code.
Yes. Local code security.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Read, protect. Well, isn't there a function read, protect?
Read protected.
No, I understand, but how do you do
protect?
This protect.
Protect on a symbol sets the attribute protected. Yeah.
Read protected. You have to use set attributes.
Set attributes. Yes.
Okay, but I think local code security set a symbol to be write protected, right? And then we can list here. That was a good catch that those things should be in here. So we want protected and read protected here.
Mm-hmm. And locked is the important one if you, yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to lock things down really hard.
Okay, and then we want encode and decode, right? Encode
Definitely encode, yeah.
and get, presumably.
There is no decode. For what
Yeah,
it's
right. Encode code, encode packages, code
Source to it, and yeah.
encode source to require a password.
And get does the decoding unless you gave it a key. If you gave it a key, then get has to take that key.
Well, wait a minute. Encode source code.
The password is optional.
Allowing with optional password.
Yeah.
Okay, and I would argue that we should also put in here, we should put get and we should put dump save here. Because dump save is a sort of related operation. And I wonder whether we should put anything about WXF. What is binary serialized might go here as well. I mean, it's not really in, am I making sense?
Yeah, that's a very open format though. Like as long as you follow the instructions, anybody can.
Oh, I understand, but it's not readable on its face.
Yeah.
Okay, now what about all the attributes? What about document security? Notebook security. That has to do with things like
we have notebook sign or something. What is it called? Is it notebook sign?
I don't think so. I don't think that's ever been fully implemented.
built. Yeah.
What's the signing function? There's a function that does CDF signing, right? Like the.
Yeah, that's internal.
But what there is
No.
things about editable false and all those kinds of things. Editable. What are the other things around editable?
Deletable, selectable. There's deploy.
What does that do?
It's for things like controls, kind of locks down areas. It's not foolproof by any means.
Okay. Well, and let's get a good link for that. Okay. All right. Let's go here.
CDF deploy is the one that does signing, I think. Is that right, Brian?
But that isn't a built-in function, is it?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I think
CDF
deploy,
you're right,
but
takes your CDF file and it adds signing to it, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Doesn't this need to be modernized?
Well, it was modernized.
Yeah, it looks like it was touched in 11.2. Is that what that says down there?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So when we have to say CDF deploy here.
No, we can verify that that's correct, but I think it applies signing to it to
sign a notebook or deploy a notebook to be used by notebook player.
I think so, yeah. I mean, isn't that the function that allows manipulates to work and things like that in a player? Ryan?
I mean, if there's that would be the function, or file save as CDF does that exist anymore? Maybe that doesn't exist anymore.
Well, there's file.
Okay, listen, let's keep going here because we've got other things. Okay, so we've got blockchain. We need to link to that. Okay, security options for the product itself. Allow internet access. See what I'm saying? That these are. You can set that, right? Allow internet access, correct?
I think so. I'm looking on one second. Is that a documented symbol though? I don't see it.
Or maybe I'm wrong. It's in the preferences.
There's allow internet. I think that's
Oh,
probably what
$allow internet. Okay, there we go. I'm mistyping. Connection settings.
What the heck is that? Is that even documented in URL read? Is that something we want to put on this page? That's more like network debugging.
Yeah, it has to do with like throttling speed and things like that. So
yeah, $allow internet.
Excuse me, we do not have connection settings on this page. Growl. How did that happen? Could you, Brian, could you look into this, please?
I'm sorry, connection settings should be a listed option on URL read.
Definitely.
that would be for me and Carla and Fahim to take a look at.
Okay, I'm going to put connection settings on here, but there are other functions to put it onto as well. Am I making sense?
Mhm.
That's a goof.
I still don't see $allow internet. But
Okay, what's the default for connection settings? Automatic?
$allow internet. Yes, definitely.
Okay, wait a minute.
The $allow internet is in the backlog manager
Yeah.
context.
That's why I couldn't find it.
Oh, really? Okay. So what other securities? I mean, the dollar network connected. Is the computer connected to a network? But I don't know whether. What about? Okay. What about dollar network interfaces? All that kind of thing.
No, but that's not security.
That's
really.
more, yeah, it's more informational, right? That's not really.
Okay. So $allow internet access isn't a thing, except that preferences is. I don't know how we indicate that here. We've got to have the preferences menu.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we should hunt this down. I mean, if there's a preference setting for allow internet, there should be a language reflection
so.
of that.
Yeah, I think so.
We may simply pull that allow internet into system context. So, but that's something for the backlog manager people to look at.
Well, we're going to be working on the backlog system this year, so hopefully that'll pop right out of that project.
Something to keep in mind, I think the front end has its own notion of whether internet is allowed as well, but that's not anywhere exposed. It's all hidden. That's hidden somewhere in a front end context. Just something to keep in mind when you're digging through this.
Okay, listen, we're going to have to wrap this meeting, and this means we're not quite done here. Okay, I'm going to futurize these sections. I'm going to put this thing. I'm going to defuturize this page. We also have to knit to this page. Brian, you need to remind me of that, or maybe we shouldn't defuturize. But we got to do knitting, and we got to finish this page. It's going to take another hour, and you guys need to think about what other things should go on here, like the cookie stuff and so on. Right? Yes, you understand? No, you don't understand?
Yeah, sorry, no, I was thinking about, yeah.
And I don't know, look, topics here will be things like, port scanning. How do you do port scanning with Socket Connect, presumably? Am I making sense? Finding cookies that have been set. What other topics are there here? Network, scanning. What other topics are there?
I guess it would depend on how broad you want to get. Something like CSSH, clustered SSH is very useful, but it's definitely not something that's supported.
Okay, but that's not what I'm talking about here. Is security analysis, things you would
gotcha.
do.
Yeah. Port scanning is definitely useful.
which we can do, right?
We have things like ping time.
I don't think ping time is quite the same thing. I mean, we could imagine listing ping time.
Well,
but,
you can use it to see if there's certain machines active on a certain IP address, right? I mean, it's
that's true. But what I'm talking about is isn't Socket Connect the thing you need for port scanning?
I've never done that. Probably yes, but I've never done it. I mean, you can put.
You just put a port number on it.
Yeah, I mean, presumably you'd want to do something similar to Nmap.
I think if I did that, then I would have a sysadmin within my office.
Okay, guys, come on. We're trying to make a list of things. I wonder whether we actually reference anything. No, but we have that functionality. And by the way, the index should have found something like that. Okay, so this is what I want you guys to think about, right? Is what other functionality do we have that somebody would use to check the security of their system, right? So network packet capture would be one good thing. Are there random packets flapping around?
Carla, maybe you can set up a meeting to brainstorm on that with a subset of people.
Okay.
There's something like what SSL Labs does or securityheaders.com telling you, oh, hey, you have TLS 1.0 turned on, and that's not a good thing anymore, or SSL version 3, or things like that.
How do we do that? We do that because we can read the headers, right?
Well, in that particular case, you could do that with. I thought I saw something with verifying a security certificate, which
yes,
which you could talk about certificate types and what you should or shouldn't do there, and then if you're doing a connection to just any random web server, you can definitely try to connect with other insecure options to see if the server will allow you to do so, and it should not. But if it does, then you could say, oh, hey, this is a problem.
Okay, all right, okay, fine. You guys need to brainstorm this. I think we're out of time for this meeting. Please set up something to continue, and thanks all, to be continued. Thanks to folks on the live streams.
All right.
All soon. Okay, bye-bye.